Wagwan, everybody. Welcome to the Dis Affamie History podcast, where we'll be speaking about history and as well family history and how history relates in terms of Caribbean people for the present as well as in the past, and how in the past what that does and brings forth for what we are going through at present and what we can learn from our history, from our family, and take that moving forward. So I do hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you like it, please ensure to subscribe, like, and review. Thank you. Welcome back to Dis Affamie History Podcast, where we explore stories, voices, and ideas that shape how we understand our past and how we show up in the present. Today's episode shifts us into the world of storytelling in a different but equally powerful way through podcasting. I'm excited to be joined by Jennifer Henczel, founder of the Women's Podcasters Network and a leading voice in supporting women creators around the world. Through her work, Jennifer has built a global community that empowers women to use podcasting as a tool for visibility, connection, and impact. Podcasting has become more than just a medium. It's a space where voices that have historically been marginalized can speak, achieve their stories, and reach audience on their own terms. And that's something we deeply value here in Caribbean storytelling as well. In this conversation, we'll explore the power of podcasting as a platform for change, how the Women Podcasters Network is building community across borders, and what's coming up with their highly anticipated awards this April, celebrating women who use their voices to inspire and lead. So, whether you're a podcaster, a storyteller, or someone thinking about stepping behind the mic, this episode is for you. So let's have a listen.
For having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your show. And, before I tell you about myself, I just wanted to say I hope people vote for your show in the Women Podcasters Awards. Yeah, and so my name is Jennifer Henczel, and I'm the founder of the Women Podcasters Network and the Women Podcasters Awards, and also the AI Innovators Alliance. And so those kind of all work hand in hand together, and I really I have a passion for bringing people together and providing opportunities to connect. And my mission is to elevate women's voices globally and in the podcasting industry.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. And, I guess we'll just go into what is the Women's Podcasters Network. Can you tell us, what it is and the community that it serves?
Yes, so we help people with starting, growing, and monetizing their podcast. I specialize in monetizing podcasts. But we have resources for all of those. And I have a background in digital marketing and having an online business and courses and all that kind of thing. But I wanted to make this membership as absolutely affordable as possible. So what normally would be, say, a $49 or $97 course a month, I've made only $5 a month for women podcasters specifically to help them, to give them a foot up, to help them to start to incorporate some of these skills in the most affordable way possible. So we do have a large paid network, but then there's complementary groups as well. So on Facebook, we have a group of over 10,000 women. On LinkedIn, it's a group of over 1,000 women in the women in podcasting groups on those platforms.
That is amazing to have so many groups and so many, and to build such a community. So why did you feel that this was needed, or what inspired you to create the Women Podcasters Network, and why do you feel the space was important to the podcasting industry?
Yes, well, what happened was for many years I was a part-time entrepreneur. And so I was working full-time doing my business at night as a side gig. And I was at work one day and I got the worst phone call anyone would ever want to receive. And it was my husband's boss. And he said, "Your husband's been in a terrible accident and you need to come to the hospital right away." And so I went to the hospital. All the way there, I thought, I don't want to lose my best friend today. The boss did not sound good on the phone. It sounded really terrible. So when I got there, I didn't even recognize my husband. He had been crushed by thousands of pounds of wood. And it really blew up our lives,
Mm-hmm.
but it kind of reignited something in me and him to really, he survived, thankfully, but it really ignited us to, um, really live life and not put all those things we have passion for on the back burner. Just always, that's all we were doing was putting stuff on the back burner and just working, 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 and never really doing what we were passionate about. And so, it really, one of the things that really impacted me was the communities he was involved in before his accident rallied around him. So he was, for example, a volunteer football coach in the community, an announcer and an announcer. And so football kids and coaches would come around and say, "We're here for you, Coach Paul." And he had a really long recovery. He still has permanent injuries, brain injury and things like that. But that really sustained us at the time, really helped us, and it made me think I'm really missing that in the entrepreneur world. And so I just put an invitation out there for other business owners to join me for lunch one day. I wasn't very organized with it at the beginning, and then I had over 50 business owners show up. And so the little room I had reserved was overflowing. And that one little meeting turned into a group, and the group turned into a large network. And that's when I learned pretty much how to build and create communities, because there's a lot of people who feel isolated, and
Yes.
podcasting is similar. So along that journey, I helped my husband go from an international or from an injured mill worker to an international speaker and a TED Talk. He did a TED Talk about our story and wrote a book about our story. Through all those connections and from that experience of building the community, we were able to do those things, but that all led us to doing our podcast. And so my husband and I did a podcast together. We still do it. It's called Inspiring Show. And we have our own story and feature other people's stories. And then it started to make me think I wanted to connect with other women podcasters because I felt it was a very male dominated industry. And I started a Facebook group and it grew really quickly. And then I thought, oh, there's so many women who need help monetizing. So many women are putting out beautiful content, just wonderful, overflowing content and helping the world with their message, but they need help with learning how to monetize. And that was my strength. And so I opened the membership, and within the first 10 days, I had 100 members.
Um,
And a lot of them are still with me today. And that was in 2020.
Oh, wow, just 6 years ago. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess, unfortunately, through this tragedy, it basically had you and your husband aligned to what really resonated with you to be able to walk in alignment, right? So, which
Yes.
is unbelievable. And that's an opportunity few have been able to actually continue with, right? So,
Mhm.
with Women Podcaster Awards, would you be able to explain what the awards are about and why recognition and visibility matters so much for women podcasters?
Oh, that's a great question because, there's two different kinds of awards. There's judged awards and there's People's Choice Awards, and they're both great. They both have a place. Ours is a People's Choice Awards because it helps the podcasters learn how to rally their audience, connect with their audience, and build a community around their audience. So, because of our experience, everything everything I do at the core is building community and connection with others because I think it's so important, especially in this digital age. Connection is everything. AI can do all kinds of stuff for us, but there's still that human connection component that we need, and we can only achieve that by connecting with each other. And so that's what I build into the awards. It's an opportunity for podcasters to learn how to build that community around their podcast. So I have something called the Awards Resources Hub. So when someone joins as a nominee, they get training how to connect with their audience and build that community around their audience, rally people using the awards as a vehicle to rally their listeners and introduce them to their message and their community.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then, of course, the power of telling our stories. Why is it important for women, especially, to tell their own stories in their own voices, especially using this medium of podcasting?
Oh, that's such a beautiful thought because it really is so important because, women are silenced.
Mm.
And so when we tell our story, and it takes a lot of bravery, every single woman podcaster I've met, they've had to take a brave leap to get to the point of sitting in front of the mic and openly telling their story. And so that bravery, I just, I embrace that and I celebrate that in every woman podcaster I meet. It's so, so important because we're so silenced around the world. And so, every single voice matters. Every single voice makes a difference. Look at your podcast. Look at the difference you're making in people's lives. I mean, it's life changing for, in your case, for
Mhm.
generations, and it's just so important that we help each other, we lift each other up. A rising tide lifts all boats, and
Yes.
we're just there to lift each other up, build a community. There was many, many years I was in that hustle, a sort of isolated hustle mode, competitive mindset. So for me, I had the monetization skills, but I had to change my mindset into a community, more community oriented, more connection oriented. And that has really changed my life. I mean, it's really fulfilling to me to connect with other women now, whereas before it was more of a competitive mindset. And I can't even imagine living like that again,
Mhm.
or anymore. And so that's just so important. The connection aspect, inspiring others to bravely tell their story. So in our situation, what we found when we told our story about Paul's accident, near-death experience, it encouraged and inspired others to tell their story. So a lot of
Mhm.
people will come up to us after we speak and tell us their story, and we encourage them, to start a podcast or write a book and get their message out there. And the more of us that lift our voices, then the better all of humanity is.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And, you know, people always mention that, podcasting is saturated. Would you believe that, do you see this medium as being saturated, or there is still space for new voices to be heard?
Oh, there's still massive space because if you think of prior to 2020, we all know what happened at that time. There was only a million podcasts. And then during that phase, we're up to about 5 million podcasts now, approximately. And not all of those are really active.
Yeah.
But if you think of the number of websites, for example, which is in the billions now,
Mhm.
podcasting has a massive, massive space to still grow. And there's so many niches. I mean, look at you. You are a perfect example of finding such a precise niche, and yet there's such an interest in it and so much value that comes out of it. I can't imagine the world not having your podcast now. You know what I mean? And so there's so
Yeah.
many people like that that have a message that needs to be heard. So if you're listening to this and you have an idea, try it. Podcasting is one of those things you kind of need to learn by trying. And
Yes.
so I just want to encourage anyone to take the leap and lift their voice.
Absolutely. Yes, even though it is a large learning curve, but it is definitely very rewarding to be able to be part of it. And, going back to your personal story, that journey of course, community building, what challenges that you faced, that shaped how you lead today?
Oh, that's a really good question. It reminds me of when for my 50th birthday, I went skydiving
Mm.
and I had never been skydiving before. And we went up in the plane. I was doing this voluntarily. So we were going up in the plane. We were going up in the plane and I was doing great. I was enjoying the view. We went up to 10,000 feet. And then the door opened, and you're not used to the door opening on a plane, right? And then
Yes.
people were rolling out, jumping out, falling out. And I was the last one. I was tethered to someone. That's what you do when you first go. And I don't know if you've ever been skydiving, but you have to get
No.
outside of the plane and stand on a little step on the outside of the
Oh,
airplane.
okay.
Okay. So it wasn't, I had enjoyed the view and everything up to that point. Then we stood out and I suddenly became terrified. I was just filled with fear in that moment because I was standing on this tiny step on the outside of a moving airplane. I could see the curve of the earth and the whole situation. And then we took the leap and we took the special position. And I don't know if you know this, but only for about the first, I'd say 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, felt like falling. But then once you take the special position, you just feels like floating and flying.
Hmm.
And And then the view became beautiful and stunning, and it was the most glorious experience I've ever had. I landed safely, and I was celebrating. I just couldn't even hold myself back from like jumping and, hollering like, wow,
Hmm.
like just celebrating what I did. It was just filled me with life, and makes me think every single thing that happens in life that I was only really fearful right before the leap.
Yeah,
So if people just take the leap, that is the most frightening part. If you just take the leap, all the good stuff is after that. And we encountered that at every step of Paul's recovery and the step of building community, transitioning our mindset. It's frightening to change your mindset, right?
absolutely.
From a clenched up hustle mode to more of a freedom, embracing community and things like that. But we did it. And you just have to take that first brave leap, and then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we, kind of come to a close, what would you say for listeners that are curious about starting their own podcast? What encouragement and what first steps could you be able to advise them?
Yes. Well, one of the most common things is people can get overwhelmed with all the equipment and different things you can get. Just start with your phone if you want. You can just start as simple as possible and upgrade as you go. I upgraded my mic as I went. This is probably, I think, my fourth or fifth mic. And so you can just upgrade as you can afford it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always the most expensive pieces. This is not the most expensive mic. I had a more expensive mic than this. And then I found this one through my sister and another friend, and it's actually, I like it better than the more expensive one. So you don't always need the most
Yes.
expensive
Yeah.
equipment. You don't have to have all the perfect conditions. Just start sharing your message and the rest of it will come. It's one of those things you really need to do and learn step by
Yes.
step.
I
My
couldn't
coach,
agree.
yeah, well, I don't know if you found this, but my coach told me, look, your 10th episode is always going to be better than your first episode.
Yeah.
You're going to learn as you go.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of learning, and it doesn't stop. It just continues, continues, continues. So, I just want to really thank you so much for your time for coming on to the podcast and talking about this and giving the encouragement to people so they can be able to have the courage to start, because there needs to be more voices out there. As you said, everybody's voice is important. We just don't know how and what it will activate into somebody else. So, and I'll make sure to put all the links to what you've mentioned in the show notes so people can be able to further connect. So, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I hope people vote for your show because what you're doing is just amazing. It's unbelievable and so valuable. So I'm your biggest fan. I love you and your show and everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hoped you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and write a review for the episode wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you.